Hey guys, Gino here. Today I'm taking a look at another good choice for home defense, or actually this thing's good for hunting also. So this is the Benelli SuperNova Tactical 12 gauge shotgun. And Benelli sells several variations of this SuperNova Tactical. This one has the 18-inch barrel, the standard grip, and the Comfort Tech stock. It also has the rifle type sights. So it has a ghost ring rear aperture, and the front side is a post, and it is hooded on each side to help protect it. It also has kind of a 3 white dot system. So there's one on either side of the rear aperture and one on the front sight post. And the rear sight is fully adjustable for elevation and windage. The trigger guard itself is oversized to accommodate for someone wearing gloves. Right in front of the trigger there's a cross bolt safety, and then right forward of the trigger guard on the right hand side is the pump release button. And I did clear the shotgun before I started the video, but to release the pump you just press the button, it releases the pump grip. At that point you can go ahead, and chamber around, or check it in this case and make sure that the shotgun is clear, and it is. So the pump grip area is very large and should accommodate pretty much anybody, any style of shooting. So I know nowadays people like to put their arm all the way forward. Some like to bring it back a little bit, but it has texture all the way along it, so it'll accommodate any type of shooter. Another one of the really good features of this shotgun is it has what's called a shell stop. So there's a button right here in the middle of the pump grip. And what that allows you to do is to change out the type of shotgun shell you have in the chamber should it be necessary. So, for example, you have some light bird shot or something like that. You have a couple in the magazine and one in the chamber, and you come across a situation where you come across a bear or something crazy, you need to change out the type of load that's in the chamber. So what you're going to do is go ahead and press the release button to release the grip. At that point, as soon as it starts to come back, you push the shell stop button, and that'll keep any shells from loading up into the chamber as you eject the one that's in the chamber. You can eject whatever's in the chamber, grab your rifled slug or whatever type of shell that you need, drop it in there, and you're good to go. So overall, the shotgun weighs about 7.5 pounds unloaded. It can fire 2 3/4, 3-inch, or 3.5-inch 12 gauge shells. Stock, the magazine tube on the shotgun holds 4 rounds or 4 shells and 1 in the chamber. So I added this magazine extension tube. So this one can hold 6 shells in the tube and 1 in the chamber. And so I read a position on firearms and firearm capacity, and it says that right now federal guidelines protect migratory birds more than they protect our children, because bird hunters are only allowed 3 shells in their shotgun while they're hunting birds. And the next time a couple of ducks kick in a front door intent on robbing or harming a family, or violently carjack and kill somebody, I will be the first one to fly to Washington, D.C. and lobby all our elected leaders that bird hunters need more shells in their shotgun to take care of these violent birds. So yeah, that position to me is just asinine, but that's a whole nother story. Back to this shotgun. So some of the good news, another piece of good news anyway, is the MSRP. This MSRP is around $550 for this shotgun, which is great. So you can actually get it for $500 or less. And Benelli has a great reputation. They make some of the finest shotguns out there. And the M4 Tactical, some of those other shotguns, really high dollar shotguns. And this has a lot of that quality built in for a much lower price. And I think it's a pretty good deal. But let's go ahead and go out to the range and shoot it. I'm going to shoot initially 3 different types of buckshot, and then some of the rifled slug rounds. So I'm going to start off today with the Remington Law Enforcement Reduced Recoil. double-aught buckshot, and these have 9 pellets. I've set the targets up at about average home defense distances. The target on the right's about 5 yards from the firing position. The target on the left's about 8 yards. And I just want to see what kind of spread these have at those distances. So next up is going to be the Winchester standard double-aught buckshot loads. These also have 9 pellets. I'll fire 2 of these also. So next up is the Remington Magnum buckshot. And this has a much higher velocity. It advertises 1,290 feet per second, and it has 12 pellets in it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and shoot at the head on both the targets, since the center's getting a little torn up, just to kind of see the spread. So with all 3 of those double-aught buckshot loads, it kept a really tight pattern at the 5-yard silhouette and put pretty much all the pellets right there into the critical areas. And it did open up just a little bit at the 8-yard silhouette. I found that the double-aught buck will open up maybe a ½ inch or a little bit less even per yard as it goes out. But even on that 8-yard silhouette, most of those pellets were still right there in those critical areas that would give a bad guy a permanent dirt nap. So the last type of shotgun ammunition I'm going to be using today is the Winchester hollow point rifled slugs. And I don't recommend these for home defense. You could use them, but you're going to have a lot of over penetration with these. You'd have to be really careful about what's on the other side of the bad guy you're shooting these things at. So I'm going to see if I can break their pelvic bone with these. So let's talk about targeting the pelvic bone. And I do agree that it is a viable area that you could potentially target. If you get a solid hit on a hip bone and you crack it, that bad guy's going to drop like a sack of potatoes. But I do have to say, that's not my first choice as a target. I will always try and go center mass or headshot if at all possible. But there could be circumstances where you're forced to target that area. Say potentially that's the only portion of the bad guy that you can see, or going to the extreme, say the bad guys you're facing are wearing helmets and body armor, then again you're kind of forced to target that area. So what I want to do right now is I'm going to focus in right on the pelvic bone area and kind of discuss what else could happen if you get good solid hits right into that area. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the pelvic bone area. So the collection of bones on the left and right side are known as the hip bones, and I kind of explained what happens when you break a hip bone. Also, you can kind of see on this silhouette how the spine runs down, and right in this area it joins with the sacrum. And what this doesn't depict is that there's a bundle of nerves that come out of the bottom of the spine that feed into the lower extremities. And I've also tried to draw on the major arteries that run through this area. So the aorta comes down, and then the aorta feeds into the iliac arteries, which run through the pelvic girdle. And then the iliac arteries feed into the femoral arteries, which run on the inside of each of the legs. So now that you kind of know what makes up the pelvic girdle, you can kind of see there's some good reasons that you might want to target this area. And we talked about the hip bones. If you get a good solid hit that actually breaks or cracks a hip bone, it's going to put the bad guy in the dirt. Now, it may not take him out of the fight, but at that point, you have a decision to make. And if all you need to do is reduce that danger so that you can get out of that situation and get to safety, well, that's a good thing. If not, at least this puts you in a position where The bad guy is on the ground, he's not fighting as effectively, and hopefully you're able to make some good, well-aimed shots to the upper extremities that, permanently eliminate that threat. Also, I kind of talked about the spine running through this area and, connecting with the sacrum. And it does have several nerves that come down and feed into the lower extremities. So if any of your rounds get in there and, cut or sever nerves, potentially that spinal cord, well, you know what that does. Also, I pointed out the major arteries that run through the area. So, the aorta, which feeds into the iliac, which feeds into the femoral. If any of your rounds sever the arteries at any point, the odds are that bad guy is going to bleed out and die. All right, so right now, I want to go back out to the range and try and put a couple more shots onto the pelvic bone. So that was kind of fun. I threw 2 more of the rifled slugs in. I'm going to see if I can hit the right side of their pelvic bone. So just for fun, and I repasted new targets on there, but I loaded 2 of the law enforcement reduced recoil buckshot rounds, 2 of the Winchester standard buckshot rounds, 2 of the Remington Magnum buckshot rounds, and 1 of the rifled slugs. So I just want to fire them all back to back and see how that was. So first up is the 2 reduced recoil law enforcement rounds. Next up is the standard Winchester double-aught buckshot round. Now we got the Magnum rounds. Last is the rifled slug. Okay, so when you say shotgun, most people envision either home defense or bird hunting. And I did focus in on the home defense aspect of the shotgun today. And I definitely do recommend the double-aught buck. It's very effective on those 2-legged snakes out to about 20 yards or 60 feet or so. And you could use the rifled slugs for home defense, but you might get over penetration, so I don't recommend them. And for those of you who don't know what over penetration is, that's where you shoot a bad guy and he goes right through the bad guy, through 1 or 2 interior walls, and then strikes someone or something that you did not intend to hit. And that's not a good thing. You don't want to do that. Those rifled slugs are really meant for hunting medium to large size game, hogs, deer, all the way up to bear. And basically what they do is they turn your shotgun into a short range rifle. And that's a really good thing. Shotguns are really versatile. I think a lot of people overlook shotguns, but with the right kind of shell or load, you can hunt everything from the smallest game, rabbits, dove, all the way up to, like I said, deer and maybe even bear. And they're definitely good for protecting yourself and your family against those 2-legged predators. Say you have some migratory Canadian geese that fly over. They're flying south. And they have a bad attitude, and they're intent on robbing and stealing and harming. And you wake up because you hear them breaking into your house. So you grab your shotgun, and you got 3 shells, because that's all you need. And you go out on your balcony, because you have a balcony, and you take the shotgun, and you fire it straight into the air, boom! And that'll scare them away, that'll make them run. But these geese don't run. Because they're not scared. They're over 200 pounds each, and they're intent on breaking in. They want to hurt you. They want to rob you, and they're not afraid. All right, so you run back inside, and as you start to come downstairs, you see one of them's moving towards your children's bedroom, and the other one's moving towards your wife because she's in the kitchen. And at that point, what you need to do, you have 2 shells left. So you need to pull a matrix move. You need to slow down time. Once you slow down time, you take very careful aim and you shoot one and then the other right in the leg. And that'll stop them and drop them. And you'll be so relieved. Everything will have worked out perfectly. Until out of the corner of your eye, you notice a third one walking in. You thought there were only two. This one looks bigger and meaner than the other two. And he's intent on killing you. He's walking straight towards you. And you're out of ammunition. So this is where I would recommend buying the Benelli SuperNova. Because this has an 18-inch steel barrel and has a really solid stock. Because at this point, you're going to have to try and use this thing like a baseball bat on that third attacker. And God help you if you don't have the physical strength and physical ability to do that. Because this one's intent on killing you, your wife, and your children. So there's a reason law-abiding citizens need as many shells as possible in their shotgun, or a high-capacity magazine for their handgun or their rifle. And no, it's not to shoot a bird. It's to protect and defend their home, their families, their loved ones, and especially their children. So now I'm just going to see how quick I can put two into each target. So I'm just going to put two more in each target. Alright guys, that ends the shooting for today. And I have to say I had a lot of fun shooting this Benelli SuperNova today. I don't shoot scatterguns too often. I forgot how fun they are. And here's yet another day that I didn't shoot steel, but I did get to come out and shoot, and any day that I can come out and shoot is a really good day. I will see you guys next time.